All right, let's see who makes it over here. I think it was David, Andre Burnett, Afemi, who else? Wab Funk. I just want to see. Yeah, I was interested in following up on this convo about xenophobia, actually, and it's it's kind of an interesting topic because of the, I guess you could say, some of it's coming out politically in the community. Um, and I was just curious about how people perceive that. Actually, and David, I would like to know your view on that too, brother. If you're there, if you're in the chat, let me see who it is. I'd like to know your opinions on this. Let me see. Afemi's here. Yo, Afemi. Okay, brother, you back? Yeah. Now, listen, brother. Let me turn the music down a little bit. And hey, let me ask you one question though before we do that. When you hear this, does it remind you of anything? What comes to your mind when you hear that?
Um, I mean, it sounds, it sounds like I'll say it sounds like black music. Um,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
the voice of the singer kind of sounds like a Marley or something, but
All right,
the
let's take the vocals out of it and the melody out of it.
so just the drumming.
Yeah. What does that remind you? What comes to your mind when you hear that? Okay. Now, of course, now the drum's not there, but it's gonna come back on.
Patrice, we miss you, baby. I know you like cook food, girl. We'll never forget you. We wish you was here with us. This for you, all above. Say what? Patrice, Patrice, Patrice.
Andre Burnett. I'm still not sure, but want to be sure. Oh, you know the song,
Have
but
fun.
the drums. What did the drums remind you of?
I don't know, man. Go ahead and tell me.
These are all the same instruments that make Pan American music, Caribbean music, South American music, the rototom, the cowbell.
Patrice, hey, Bob,
This is just the more Americanized version. That's what go-go is. Go-go
Oh,
music
that's
is like,
go-go music.
yeah, that's go-go music, and it's more like the U.S. version of Pan American music.
Gotcha.
You know, it's our way of playing those rototons, our way of playing those congos. And I was just curious what you thought about it being Jamaican. You know, I guess you could say it's close to calypso in some way.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I was curious about that, man. But let me ask you another question on what do you think about what's your experience been with xenophobia at all in the black community? I mean, have you encountered that much? Because I got to tell you, man, if I met you in DC, I doubt that I would have ever even known you were Jamaican. But maybe you would rock some clothes, or maybe you would tell me. But outside of that, I wouldn't maybe even have known you were Jamaican. I could also guess maybe you from Ghana or something. I could guess either one or not, right? But
I mean, I tell folks if it comes up,
if it comes up,
yeah, if it comes up, I'll tell folks. Um, some people can hear my accent, some people can't, and it's just also different depending on who I'm around. Um, because if I'm like very comfortable,
Mhm.
then it'll come out more. Um,
Aha.
Other
I
times it
got it.
won't.
But you know, when I hear your English, also your vernacular, I can't hear Florida. I can't hear Atlanta.
No,
I can't hear Chicago, man, because they got country Midwest accents in Chicago, man.
no, I never I never picked up because I lived in Florida the longest.
Uh huh.
Like Chicago was a couple years and stuff. Florida, that's like 20 plus years or something.
Okay.
But I never picked up an accent from any nowadays. Like okay, when I was coming up, um, late '80s and through the '90s in Florida, there was xenophobia. Um, but down in Florida, I think I spoke about this before. Like black folks, like black Americans, for instance, they down in Florida, Miami, they didn't like black folks from like anywhere else, basically up north. Um, so even if you're from Georgia, because Florida's the bottom, but definitely if you're from like the Northeast and stuff, they didn't like you. Only if you were black, though. If you were white coming from up north, if you were Asian coming from up north, no problem. But if you're black coming from anywhere else, it's a problem. So and in the and then in between the islanders and stuff too. I mean, you always have these people. You have some of them that hate that hate black Americans, only black Americans, never white or Asian again or whatever, and hate in between the islands and stuff. When I was coming up, nobody wanted to be mistaken for a Haitian. They treated the Haitians the worst. Like you didn't. I guess the stigma with the Haitians was poverty. So you did not.
Where were you when you're talking about the Haitians? They treated the Haitians where?
In Miami, they
Ah,
treated
okay.
they treated
Just to
them
make sure.
terribly.
Right. Okay.
Like they used to come up to people and be like, "Hey man, you got HBO?" And you don't want to say no because you don't want to appear to be poor or something. You want to
Uh
say
huh.
yes. But then when you say yes, they're like, you got Haitian body odor. This is stuff
Oh, what?
from elementary school.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
Um,
So
so
young people, young people.
yeah, when I was coming up, I'm guessing there was probably generations either before me or maybe even concurrently with me at the time of Jamaicans up there that had already uh, kind of established themselves there, so they weren't new so much.
Okay.
Um, so when I was coming up, I it wasn't a thing where I was trying to take on the local accent or any of the Jamaicans I knew, but the Haitians were. They would try to kind of fit in to any group that's accepted. So they would take on the accents of the local Black Americans or even Jamaicans or something like that.
Okay.
Um, Nowadays, I find when I've visited, I see that there's more Jamaicans now, young folks again, who are actually taking on the local accent and whatnot because they're getting picked on something fierce, so they want to try to hide, you know, where they come from and whatnot. Um, hmm. I I knew when I from the time before reading all the books and listening to all the lectures and whatnot, way before all of that, I knew that what I was seeing from all these black people from these different backgrounds and whatnot, I knew what I was seeing was just anti-blackness,
Okay.
and it was it was never anything that um, it didn't make sense to me. I got what it was, but it didn't make sense to me to that I'm supposed to feel a certain way like that negatively about 40 million people, black folks and whatnot, because of whatever. I'm supposed
Uh-huh.
to hate all Nigerians or whatever because of whatever. So it never made sense to me. It wasn't something that I picked up. I was, I had my moments um, where I let peer pressure on this or that thing get to me when I was growing up. Not even talking about the xenophobia, but just other things.
Mhm.
But for the most part, peer pressure wasn't really a thing for me. I had a strong mind. Um,
Well, were you like would you say you, since you are Jamaican descent, you could say, or I mean, background, right?
I'm from
Um,
Jamaica. Yeah.
yeah, you're from Jamaica. Um, would you say that you did you grow up in a Jamaican part of town in Florida, like, or did you always gravitate towards Jamaican community when you were young? Were you hanging out, like when you said you were growing up and you saw xenophobia that black people did, all of us, right? Maybe
Yeah.
participated in. Were you living in a Jamaican part of town, or because I don't know much about Florida, bro? That's why I'm asking. Or did you live in a Haitian part of town, or did you live in a Caribbean black part of town, or
Um, you know, the Haitians tend to congregate more with each other up here. Um, because I don't know if there's a part of town in Miami where that I can call Jamaican. We're more
okay,
spread out. um, so I where I lived, it was always a predominantly black area, but it wasn't like filled to the brim with Jamaicans or anything like that. It was always just a bunch of different people,
okay?
black. Was that the only question you just asked me?
Well, I was just curious to know, like, because you said you saw different black people exhibit xenophobia towards each other, and that you didn't like that. You could already feel that that wasn't wise, right? So, but I was just curious why you were having that feeling, or making those observations. Were you at that time living in a Jamaican part of town, or
It
were
was
you
it was it mostly
Jamaican?
happened.
I'm Jamaican. I'm wearing a Jamaican jacket. I'm from the Jamaican part, and so, or was it just everybody was living together while you had that observation? That's what I'm.
Those observations mostly took place in school. Um,
Okay, I got you.
yeah,
I got you.
the
So
when
in
it came
school,
to
people gravitate towards each other. In school,
right,
this
yeah,
happens.
people
Okay,
always try to click up and whatnot.
all right.
The kind of folks I used to be around, it was usually a mixed group. Black Americans, Jamaicans, people from other islands, maybe even one or two from somewhere in Africa.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So it was always a mixed group. I never hung around anyone that had those kind of issues basically. So we were always cool with everybody.
Okay. Okay. And so let me ask you this. When did you come to the U.S.? What age,
I was eight
roughly?
years old.
Okay. And now you're like my age, right, Femi?
I think you're in your 50s, right?
I'm 53. Yeah.
I'm 44.
Oh, you know what? So you're a younger brother, man. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go, man. Now, now let me see, young brother. Let me ask you another question, young brother. let me ask you. Let me ask you this then. Okay, so you like 9 years younger than me. That's roughly given. Yeah. Okay. And so when you, in your experience living in the U.S., growing up in the U.S., yeah, because you grew up in the U.S., so that's just what it is. Um, uh, would you say your relationship with African Americans typically has been friendly, or have you had to come over a lot of xenophobia? Any adversity with that from African Americans? Uh, would you describe that as being like something you would often or regularly encounter, or is that just like pretty much not even a factor?
It happened. It happened mostly in school, and mostly, mostly when I was younger, my accent was stronger.
Uh huh.
Um, when I first when I first came up here, um, I would try to speak properly. Um, but it was like if you know like Spanish speakers when they come up here when they get mad about something, the Spanish would come out.
Right.
So it would be stuff like that until I got that under control as well. But basically, when I first came up here, I was painfully Jamaican.
Okay, I got you. I got
You can always tell when it's a Jamaican fresh from Jamaica or a Haitian fresh from Haiti or something because of how we dress and stuff, how we speak, and it just takes time to kind of blend in locally more.
right.
And, but
Okay.
until then, you'll go through a couple of little things.
Okay. Okay. And would you say that your parents were middle class? Not to get too personal, but I'm just curious. Like when you say about how you dress, I was just curious. Like, would you say because in the U.S. a lot of how you dress has something to do with the economy, your family's economy. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So would you say you were lower class, like borderline poor, middle class, or above?
Well, I'll just say my parents split up when I was like 3 years old or something like that, and I always lived with my pops.
Okay.
um,
And
you
pops
know, my
wasn't
mother.
spoiling nobody. And
Say
pops
what?
wasn't spoiling nobody.
Say it again.
And pops wasn't spoiling nobody.
No, no, and
Okay.
he showed like no kind of understanding whatsoever about whatever kids go through when they're young in school and so on and so forth. So, um,
You think that made you stronger?
I don't know if that's what did it or if it was just in me or what,
Uh-huh.
but like we lived in the ghetto in Jamaica basically, and when we came up here, we were living in the ghetto too, but it wasn't really the ghetto to us because it was just way better.
Okay.
But for up here, it was the ghetto. Um, and my pops had regular jobs. He was like a Orkin man for the longest. You know what I'm saying? Just regular ass jobs.
Orkin man, what's
Um,
that?
pest control.
Oh, pest control. That's right.
Yeah,
Orkin. I forgot the company. Yeah.
yeah,
Orkin.
regular ass jobs. Um, he never wanted to buy me like name brand clothes and shoes and whatnot, and that's a big thing up here. When I was
Yeah.
in Jamaica, I never had to worry about that because we all wore uniforms, what we call khaki, but up here they pronounce it khaki.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I had like one pair of shoes, and you only wore it to either school or church, or
Uh-huh.
maybe possibly if there's some kind of special um, engagement to go to, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But other like one of the things they had to break me out of when I first came up here was that everywhere I went, when I left the house, everywhere I went barefoot because that's how you did. You didn't want to. You don't wear your shoes just to go outside and whatnot and end up
Whoa.
messing up your shoes and whatnot because you got one pair.
Because you got to wear those to school.
So
Damn.
when I come up here and it's all about fashion in school and whatnot, and you got to have name brand this and name brand that. Pops had no understanding of that whatsoever. He wasn't trying to hear it. So he'd be trying to buy me shoes from Payless and stuff. You get made fun of for that stuff. They call
Yeah.
those bobos.
Uh-huh.
um, you know, regular Walmart clothes and so on and so forth. When by the time I got to middle school, I was in a program called Work Experience in school, and basically there was like a half hour class early in the morning before regular classes started, where the instructor would be talking about stuff having to do with work, just teaching us stuff about work. I was like 15 at the time, 14, 15.
Uh-huh.
And after that, it was like a half hour. After that, we went to like three classes. And by 12:15, 12:30, school was done for us. And then we'd go to work for the rest of the day. Um, when I did that, my first job back then was paying like $4.87 an hour or something like that. And I saved up my money. I bought myself it, like, the cool stuff to get, of course, would be the Tommy Hill figure and uh
Uh-huh.
some other stuff, polo and whatnot.
You said
But
you were 15?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
this was about 94 or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
Um when I saved up my money and whatnot, I didn't go and get the polo and Tommy and stuff like that. I just went and got something that to me was better than just regular Walmart clothes.
Mhm.
Um, sometimes I'd go to the flea market and pick up something that was like more so what Jamaicans would wear. Sometimes because it didn't cost as much as Tommy and so on and so forth. So
Why do you think
they,
you chose that?
yeah, so I did that type of stuff just so I could get attention off of me. I bought myself like some Fila shoes, so not Jordans, because that was the thing, was got to have them Jordans or the Shaquille O'Neal joints or something like that, real expensive stuff. But I just said I'll just get some Filas. They won't mess with you that way, at least. You know what I'm saying? You won't be the coolest guy in the school, but at least they won't be um, trying to tease you and whatnot. Because right before that, like I had some shoes that my mother had given to me. They were like British Knights or something like that. And I wore them things out to the point where the bottoms were gone, like around my toes, nothing. um, and I remember this guy, he saw me one day in like PE class or whatever. Like it was embarrassing because you'd be sitting down in PE. In PE they want you to do some exercises before you go and play games and whatnot. And I used to hate having to sit down with your legs out and doing like stretching, trying to reach your toes and whatnot,
Right.
because my toes, the bottom of my shoes would be just totally exposed.
Oh my goodness. All
So
right.
uh, I remember one time my pops, he saw the condition of my shoes and took me to Payless, got me some. It's the worst thing you could do. Got me some shoes that look like Jordans.
Right.
That is just the worst thing you could do.
So you
Um,
think? Do you think? But why do you think you didn't do it? Do you think it was just purely like not like observing, knowing that okay, I need to make this money last, and so was it a rational thought, or what? What do you think made you like not go towards Hillfinger? Because that had to be like,
um, it it was an intentional thing. I I didn't
what
want
did you
to.
see? Like, did you see people wearing black kids with Hillfinger getting involved in crime, and so you didn't want to emulate that or
Nah, it wasn't nothing
something?
like that. It
Okay,
was
that's
it
what I want
was
to know.
it was just simple. It was real simple for me. I just didn't want to be down with the people that used to tease me because I know
There
because
you go. All
I
right.
knew it wouldn't be real.
Oh wow. See, I never anticipated that answer. Actually, I didn't think that would be the case. That yeah, because yeah, the draw to want to fit in is big when you're young, and a lot of kids fall into it. Like my generation, my parents weren't rich, but I definitely know a lot of the pull towards the dark side for me. I would say, well, not the dark side, the criminal part is purely about money, clothes. and those extra things that you don't necessarily really need at all, but because you won't be, it's not good. It's also not a good look to not have them. It's not a good look to not have some nice new Adidas tennis shoes or a nice jean jacket, or it makes it a little bit more difficult. Or in your mind as a kid, a teenager, it seemingly can be like that. You could think it's a little more difficult to get, uh, let's say, talk to a nice young girl if your clothes weren't on par with the trends at the time. But you, in your case, you didn't. That wasn't. You didn't even think that far ahead. That wasn't even part of your decision.
The Yeah, it's I saw guys that didn't even have it bad. They always had the freshest, this and that. I saw those kind of guys actually get into selling drugs and stuff like that, and I never got that. But I I never wanted to like get into that stuff. Um that was just always a thought in my head, was I never wanted to sell drugs to my people and whatnot. But again, I wasn't thinking like that, my people. I wasn't thinking like that. I just didn't want to do that to nobody. Um
Okay. Okay. I got you. All right. Yeah. I was just curious about the clothes thing, but go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. I remember there was a guy that, like I said, he saw the condition of my shoes, and he gave me a like an old pair of his shoes,
oh my
um
God, man. Are
because
you serious?
because
Your
they were
pop?
better than mine.
Okay.
um
So your shoes were working, but he was just like, damn, man, if you're going to hang out with me, you must
no,
need
no,
these.
no, no, no.
No?
He wasn't even somebody that I hung out with. Um, we were in PE, and he saw the condition of my shoes, that I had no bottom to it, basically. Like okay, sitting down in class, right? I always had to be mindful to keep my feet flat on the ground, because
Are you,
if your legs are bent for a long time, you
so
want to straighten them out sometimes.
your
And
pops saw that. Your
yeah,
pops knew that, and he didn't get you to do, just because in his mind they could last a little bit longer.
eventually he got me, like I said, some he told me to pay less and got me some shoes that look like Jordans. And that's the worst thing, because when kids always are going to come up to you talking about, damn man, there's some Jordans that you got right there, wow, like, but they totally just trolling you. They know it's not Jordans, but they bringing everybody's attention to, look what this dude got on.
I got you. So you didn't want those fake Jordans.
Nah, because I just don't want attention. That's
Yeah,
my
you
thing.
didn't want the attention, and your pops didn't understand. He,
Yeah.
he wasn't up for. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I got you. And like a
The
lot of
dude
parents.
the dude that gave me the his old shoes, right? Because they were in a better state than my shoes. I thought it was nice at the time, but then he told everybody that he did it. So, you had all
Oh,
the
it was the
giggles.
flip side. It was kind
Yeah,
of like, yeah,
he
he
had all
could
the
be nice,
giggling
but
and
then he
going
had to
on.
laugh about it.
Everybody everybody knew I was wearing somebody else's shoes, and they knew why.
But
So
Afemi, you
yeah,
gotta know, that that's just the kid thing. The kid
yeah.
that ain't got nothing to do with your. I mean, I can't tell you that didn't definitely have anything, but I can imagine that happened to any old kid in that
Nah,
situation.
this stuff that I'm talking about is just about, because you'd asked me about like what, like,
The
economic,
team and
level, if it's middle class or poor.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know,
So you was
but
poor. Let's just put it that way.
okay.
That would be considered poor. Yeah, even if your pops had lots of money in the bank, this just everybody going to be like, damn, Femi is broke. He's
You
broke.
know,
The teacher might give you some damn shoes at that point.
you know
It's like,
why, I probably have a problem recognizing it is because coming from Jamaica, everybody was in that state. Like I lived
Yes.
the town I lived in Kingston. Like at the time, growing up in the '80s, there, um, it was the Jamaica Labor Party. Like up here, you have Democrat and Republican, and in
Yeah.
Jamaica we had the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labor Party. I lived in a neighborhood that was aligned with the People's National Party, PNP, we'll just say for short. And
Okay.
whenever someone becomes, let's say, the president in Jamaica, which is a prime minister, um, whatever party they represent, the neighborhoods that are affiliated with that party, they get certain perks and whatnot. Nothing to write home about.
Okay.
But the people of the opposing party, um, they get starved. So I'm I'm in a PNP neighborhood at the time in the '80s, and there was a guy named Edward Siaga, a white guy who wasn't even born in Jamaica, that was the leader at the time. So like we used to do things like every day we had to get up and get a bucket, like a paint bucket kind of type thing, and we used to walk down the road up to this park. It was called Maxfield Park. It had in the wall up there. They had a little pipe that came out of the wall that was trickling water. So everybody in the neighborhood would come with their buckets, and you'd fill up with water and take it back home. And it would take a long time for water to trickle and fill up that bucket, but we all did it,
Wow.
and we went back home because nobody had water at that time,
Okay.
and electricity as well.
How
So
long would that take for one trip?
I was young, so I don't remember the timing, and time is kind of different when you're young as well. So I don't remember how long it would take, but it would take long because you're waiting in a line, and it's taking long for each and every person to fill up their bucket.
Right.
And you get home and you use that water in that bucket for everything, for cooking, drinking, flushing the toilet, everything.
Wow.
So and but it was everybody. So I didn't see myself as poor
Right.
because everybody was like
It was
I
correct.
never got teased
Yeah, you
in
weren't
school.
isolated in that.
You know what I mean? I never got teased in Jamaica over poverty because everybody was poor.
Right. Right.
So it was coming up here. It was it still didn't take to me that I remember pop. Okay, outside of clothes, haircuts, right? You want to always have the fresh haircut.
Uh-huh.
So if I would get like a haircut that's like a high top fade or a flat top or something like that, where the sides are gone, it would be so long until Pops would take me to the barber again. It's only $10. It would be
Yeah.
so long until he would take me to the barber again, that the hair on the sides would grow up so much that I'd eventually just start combing it and patting it down like a fro and just shaping it into a fro.
Right.
Because it looked ridiculous after a while trying to maintain like a flat top look by trying to mush down the sides as much as you could.
Uh,
But you get teased for all of that stuff. That was jarring, I guess. Coming up here was just how much kids were into the money thing and whatnot.
but Femi, I could tell you, man, on the flip side of that, I could tell you, man, I've seen people do things for money. You know what I mean? Like, on the epidemic level scale. And and when I contrast that to yours, I'm almost sure a lot of them might even say that you were lucky, man. A lot of people fell into that doing things for money that weren't necessarily good things for money, just for basic things, just for clothes, a little, just the extra things that you didn't have, you know, even if you get those things, is no guarantee that you will share the reward of having those things. You know, it's like could also be a death trap in some way, man. And you're alive. What's your profession today? Or no, not your profession. What's your trade? Your trade.
The longest career that I've ever had was in truck driving, commercial truck driving.
Okay, there
Um,
you go. Right.
and
Yeah. I mean, you're alive. And yo, man, there's so many people that came from a little bit more economically uh stable situations that truck driver is a good job, man. People are making decent money driving trucks. You know, some people are. I don't know the profession good enough to say so. Right? I'm sure there's hazards, and issues, union issues. This you drive for long periods of time, so I don't really know the pay grade, the scale, but go ahead, man. That's the longest one you had. Okay, so
yeah, 'cause I've done all kind of work, but that one I did. That's the longest. That's the
okay,
longest, and not just that one though, because it takes time to kind of find the right one, because there's a lot of
look at this,
scamming
brother.
also that goes on in truck
See, you
driving.
see that comment on the screen?
Uh, I'm truck driving this. Oh yeah, that's what I used to do. Yeah, yeah. You got. I had a
So
I
you
had
share,
a
he shares Smoke Reloaded shares the experience with you.
yeah. I had like a big old Bluetooth speaker, a JBL boombox that I
Hmm.
would have just sitting down in between the seats or whatever, and I just be driving all day, listening to usually stuff on YouTube, just trying to stay awake and whatnot.
Uh-huh. You know
Yeah.
what, Smoke Reloaded, you should try to hop up. Actually, that would be interesting if you got a minute, just to since you also a truck driver. I'm curious about what your background is also. All right, but so Femi, going back to let's say high school. So you got 15, 16. You didn't need the clothes. You decided to buy just regular clothes that you could afford, right? And then what? I mean, did things get? Did you like? I mean, you talked about your father. Did you move out from your pop's place at some point, or I mean,
Uh, it ain't a pretty story.
it
Um,
ain't a pretty story. Okay, okay.
the the like I said, I got clothes. Like I went to the mall. There'd be a store in there that looked like it had some kind of cool looking type clothes.
Uh-huh.
I remember like a brand name Top Dog. I used to get their shirts or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, so just it wasn't Tommy Hilfiger, it wasn't Polo, but it wasn't just regular. Even though in Miami, um, you could get Dickies and be okay. They like that um, that type of stuff or whatever. They'd wear like a full uh, khaki Dickie
Yeah, a
uniform thing.
workman's outfit, a labor suit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that was kind of like that was like the Black American look. That type of thing with some Converse or something.
So you could fit in that way in terms of a
No,
dress.
I never got that stuff.
No. Oh, what?
I'm just
Oh,
saying
you
you
couldn't
you you
afford
could you could
Dickies.
get clothes from Walmart like that and not get made fun of. But
Okay. Oh, but you couldn't even get that.
no, I never, because like I said, I never wanted to fit in with the people that were teasing me. So I just I I got the stuff I'm talking about. I got sometimes um cross colors was around
Okay,
at
but
that
you gotta have a
time.
little bit of that's cross colors is was that's not low scale anymore, man.
Yeah, it was it wasn't it wasn't looked at like maybe where you're from it was like a really really big thing and everybody was doing it,
That was hip.
but
Yeah.
I'm
Cross
telling you
colors was
the in Miami.
Benetton, cross colors. That was like the 80s, 90s, somewhere around there. That was like a thing you could, yeah.
Yeah, but in Miami though, they had their own style, so they didn't really
It was the
care.
'90s. Sorry.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So um, the like the Black Americans in Miami, they you might see some cross color every now and then, but it didn't become like trademark to them like that. It was more
Okay.
so people from the islands that was wearing cross color stuff.
So when you
Uh,
went out in the community, in the neighborhood, did you hang
I,
out with Jamaicans or did you hang out? Who did you hang out with?
I wasn't really hanging out.
Hanging out with nobody.
I I if I was outside, I was like over at the nearest basketball court playing some ball. Um,
So you was a quiet dude that minded your business. Is
Pretty
that
much.
is that okay to say? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't want to mix up. You weren't looking to mix up, but you weren't antisocial. If somebody came up to you, they could talk.
And that's a thing again where I don't know if it's my experience that made me that way or what. Because I think I was a pretty normal kid um, up until and it wasn't just the stuff at school or whatever. It was the home life sucked too.
Okay,
Um,
all right, I got you.
so I'm extremely asocial. I
Okay,
always make the distinction because antisocial is them people that go and shoot up the place and kill
yeah.
everybody and whatnot.
You just weren't.
Asocial,
You didn't really care. It didn't matter either one way or the other. You could just be by yourself.
yeah, that's my preference is to just be to myself. Like the friends that I have are all friends from my childhood. I haven't really made any friends as an adult or whatever. As a matter of fact,
So are they those friends from your childhood? What's their background like? Are they Caribbean? Are they African
all
American? Are they?
all of them,
Oh, I got
all
you.
of them.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. I
all right,
got my one of my couple of my closest friends are born here, um, with their backgrounds, going all the way back to slavery here. Um, and I don't have many to. I'm talking about like three people. the
okay,
the other one, he's born here, but I think his mother is from Trinidad,
okay.
father from here. Um,
Oh, that's interesting.
that's pretty much it. I don't really have a gang of friends or nothing. About three.
All right, so that's kind of like your youth experience, um,
Yeah.
that you shared. Now, in your adult life, right? Have you encountered xenophobia in your adult life? And to what degree would you say it's a normal occurrence, or would you say a lot of it went by without really any xenophobia at all? More, I mean, because let's be honest, classism is not xenophobia. Classism is I have this kind of clothes and money, and I have this kind of rank. I speak this kind of English, or I come from a family with this neighborhood, and you come from the ghetto. That's not that's not xenophobia.
Nah.
So, have you experienced xenophobia like as an adult, where let's say you're driving your truck or you're going to work, just paying your bills, living your adult life, and all of a sudden your background became an issue?
Nah, because there's really no way that they would know. Like the stuff that I observed when I was a kid is because I was, like I said, it was pretty much always in school. So in places where um, there'd be a large group of people and you're with them for a long time, um, you know, on a daily basis, basically. As an adult, I haven't had that experience of being around large groups of people for a long time like that. Um, you go to work and like especially like with truck driving, I'm in the truck all day all by myself. So
So your
I'm
boss don't give a damn where you from. They don't ask you. They don't. What about your bosses? They don't suspect other African Americans that you just come across at work. They don't ask you about that. There's no indication.
most people can't just asking me where I'm from. Nah, most people can't hear my accent.
Right.
Um, most of the people who do hear my accent are white people.
They hear your accent, and what they don't they think you're not American or what?
Right.
From your accent? Oh,
They
really?
can't tell where I'm from. They could just tell that I'm not American.
Oh, bro, I don't. I think that might be racism right there because I can't. I would never guess. I hear plenty of African
It's
Americans that speak like you that have your accent. I don't know what that's about. What the hell?
it's a funny thing because
I think they just lucked up on your race, and then you remember, like, yeah, I am Jamaican though. Maybe they can hear that. But I don't think it's your English accent, yo.
it's a funny thing because it's like some people who are around a lot of other people that speak the way I do will be able to tell. It just comes out sometimes. Like there'll be sometimes if I come across a word that I'm just not used to saying, or a word that the vowel sequence in the word is just set up in a way where it's more difficult than usual for me to
And you
say it
can
the
hear the
way.
Caribbean part come out, maybe the Caribbean English come out.
Yeah,
It slips out.
the way that I
Like
would.
say Antigua.
Antigua.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but I can hear right there. You don't normally say it that way, right? Do you?
Um, it depends on who I'm speaking to.
Right. Okay.
Um,
I just heard a little slightly. I just heard that wasn't a sharp Antigua. That was like you focused a little bit on it. Uh,
I'm trying to remember. There was when I was truck driving. There was a place in
say
Texas,
Guyana.
Guyana.
Hmm. Damn. Okay. I don't know, man. Okay. Never mind. All right.
Words that I'm used to. That's not gonna get me.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I'm trying to remember that there's a little town I used to pass by sometimes.
Epistemology.
Huh? Epistemology.
Oh, you can see it's messed up because you can parrot my accent because I just said it. So I should just write it down.
You can write it down if you want. I'm familiar with the word epistemology.
Right. Okay. You
Okay.
got.
So and you're probably thinking if you make the word as long as you can,
Yeah.
that's what'll do it. But here's what'll do it. There's a town in Texas, north of Houston, right? I'll spell it first for you, and you can say it.
Okay.
It's CONROE.
Conco? What the concow? What the?
CONROE.
Oh, CONROE. Conroe.
Okay, so that's how you say it.
Right.
Simple. It's 2 syllables, but when I say it, I say Conroe.
Yeah, because you have that sound, you have that word in your language, bro.
I
Like
have to.
conroe. Yeah.
It's just it's the vowel sequence going from the
No, I
to
got you,
O.
man. Yes.
It's just weird. You don't have a lot of words I would say that have that kind of sequence with the vowel sounds.
Well, in
Um,
English, in American English,
yeah,
from my part of the country, ROE is row.
yeah,
It's like a W, except it's a different kind of row.
yeah.
Like Roe versus Wade. Uh, I think this might be a French word initially, ROE, which is like Roy or something else that's somehow come into American English. But Roe into Roe, yeah, Roe
I
is
mean,
different.
I could say Roe versus Wade, no problem.
Yeah,
It's
right.
just the ah to o with the R
Conroe.
in there. It kind of
Monroe. You want
it like I could say it like you if I try a little harder.
right,
But
right.
if I'm just going like I normally go, like right now, how I'm talking and whatnot, and I try to say it's gonna come out that other way.
Hey,
Um,
where's Smoke Reloaded? Where you from? Yo, yeah. So, all right. So you don't, as an adult, you've had racism though. You've had
Yeah,
issues of racism, right?
yeah.
But not xenophobia as an
Nah,
adult.
I think that's. I mean, to me, that's largely a childish thing.
Hmm.
Um,
That's good to know, man.
but like I said, I don't hang out. I'm not in any environments where there's a lot of people that I'm around all the
Yeah,
time
you
like
don't
that.
put yourself out there to
Yeah,
have an interaction that would be xenophobic. Really,
yeah.
you're not looking for. Yeah, you're like you said, you're social.
Asocial. Yeah,
Yeah, asocial. So,
or
so when you
introverted.
go, huh?
Introverted is another word.
Introverted, right? Introverted. Okay, okay. So let me ask you this then: when you hear about this stuff like FBA, um, well, there's a distinction between FBA and ADOS. Obvious, I presume. I'm thinking from my knowledge, but when you hear this conversation come up, even not just with those terms FBA or ADOS, even when you hear it from like Republicans talking about immigration and this kind of stuff, what do you think about that? Like, what's your thoughts in general? Like, do you think there's a place for that's relevant, really, or do you think too much emphasis is put on that? Uh,
Um, when I hear white folks talking about politicians and whatnot, I know where that's coming from. That's they're not talking about white people from Europe when they talk about immigration. So
right.
I know that that's really their only issue is the race of the people that's coming here.
But brother,
Um,
if you say that to FBA people, they don't even realize that, man. I try to tell them they're not. I try to tell them they're not looking for Europeans when they
nah,
do ICE. They're
yeah,
not stopping them. They're not looking for the ID. It's like they don't know. Anyway, go ahead, brother. Yeah.
nah, nah, you're right. The FBA stuff, like I said, to me, it just reminds me of childhood. Not in the sense of like trauma,
Hmm.
but you hear stuff sometimes, and sometimes you could be tempted to want to say something mean back. But I just keep in mind just the lessons of childhood that it got bad when I was a kid, where people were killing each other over that in Miami. People were murdering each other over xenophobic stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I mean it was
But you
the
missed that part.
in
Okay,
how
you missed that as an individual, but you
yeah,
did
because I
witness it
never
happen.
got involved in it.
Aha.
Um, there was the worst thing that ever happened to me was in elementary school, where a couple of guys had stoned me just after school, just threw
Really?
stones at me one day because of that xenophobia issue and whatnot.
Oh no.
But I never got seriously hurt or nothing. And mostly in elementary school, it's about teasing with your mouth and maybe some fighting and stuff like that. Middle
Mhm.
school, fighting, maybe a stabbing, stuff like that. And then high school, and the culture in Miami too was about jumping folks.
Mhm.
So fighting, jumping, stabbing, and shooting and killing people.
Mm.
Um,
Over xenophobia,
yeah,
not over money,
yeah.
not over criminal activity. Just stay out of this part of
It
town, or I
they
saw this from this place.
they probably wouldn't look at it that way, because what it is that you start you get into conflict with someone, um, and what it is about that thing about where they're from,
Hmm.
and you just deal with them in a different kind of way because of that. It won't necessarily
Hmm.
be that I'm gonna beat you up because you're from wherever. It's just
Hmm.
that you just deal with people differently because of it. You deal with them with more disrespect and whatnot, whereas you wouldn't deal with someone that way
You might
if they,
resolve the issue
you,
differently,
you
right?
know what I
Okay,
mean.
I got you.
So it'll go down like that. But you'll notice is that it's definitely a thing where everybody on this side of it is from this place, and everyone on this side of it is from this other place or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I keep those things in mind. I know how far it can go, so
Hmm.
I'm not gonna feed into it because If it somehow falls offline and it starts getting to those kind of extents again, nobody that's pushing this stuff hard line online are going to take responsibility for it if people start getting murdered. Nobody's going to be saying that it was because of them and things that they were saying that contributed to it. They're all just going to wipe their hands clean. So
let me ask you this though. Isn't that kind of like reminiscent of America in general, like our history and everything? Like because when I was growing up, I mean, I wasn't xenophobic. Me myself, I wasn't xenophobic. But there's an environment of where, like, in terms of crime, for example, you said it wasn't about where you're from, but that would matter when instances arise. You know, where you from start to stick out, and when it comes to that, the DC dudes, they always stick together. There's always, you know, it's almost like 100%. I mean, even if there's somebody else crime wise in the city, they have to be there because of somebody from DC is helping them, invited them, and in that kind of way, the DC dudes will even allow that. You see what I mean? In their form of unity, how they stay together, they will allow one of their own to get someone from the outside. But without that person from DC, it would be like suicide coming there to do crime, to participate in the crime, right?
yeah.
But like one of the things that they had that's well known is like the DC dudes against the Jamaicans. Matter of fact, you Jamaican, the Shower Posse tried to set up shop in DC, and then I don't know if you heard the podcast with my homeboy X on it, XO. He was saying that well, I know this because we grew up in the same neighborhood, you know. Like he was, you know, they would pay people. They would give people like a quarter a key just to shoot some Shower Posse people. That's how it went down. Like, you know, so the Shower Posse at one point became a pariah in DC, like, you know, but me myself, I mean, also X, I knew some Jamaicans too, just personally. I knew some that they were doing some things also, and I didn't have anything against their ethnicity. For me, it wasn't their ethnicity. I didn't really have a damn problem. I like Jamaican music. I like Jamaican food. You know what I'm saying? But when it came to the larger elements of the crime, that was like a dividing line, you know. But I'm thinking maybe it's because the DC dudes are like, we from here, and the Shower Posse not, you know, and the New York dudes ain't from there. So the DC dudes is like, you're not from here either. Would you call that xenophobia?
Nah, that's a different thing. You'll find that with just crime in general between people, different peoples and whatnot.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Because I didn't see it. You know, most of the cats I know, and they just don't have it in them to be xenophobic. That's not anything on their mind. They don't think that way. But
the,
the crime element is definitely like, are you from DC or not? And DC is really straight down to like, and the ones that are from DC, they don't care anything. They don't care where you're from. But the moment you enter into the crime, they also won't care where you're from. They just like, you not from here. So be cautious.
the and I don't know if you can call it xenophobia if you're speaking of people in the same country, people from the same country, but I've always felt that the the way that like Black Americans in Miami regarded other Black Americans from up north in particular was just something that they got from white folks because white folks had this thing in the South where they hated everybody from the North,
Yeah.
and but with the Black people, it took on a self hate uh, angle to it or whatever. Um, but a lot of that stuff, I felt like they it's just stuff they got from white folks. The jumping thing, um,
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The
you
jumping
know what I
thing.
mean? I definitely felt like that was something that they used to do to black folks back in the day.
Shit,
Um,
and we grew up like that. If you're from a different neighborhood, we jump your ass. And if
yeah,
you go to another neighborhood in DC, you know, you could get jumped. when I
Yeah.
was growing up, but it wasn't like it was only jump fist. You wouldn't get killed or stabbed or something like that. But yeah, it could be like that in DC too. You ain't from this neighborhood, and you're not going to get a fair one.
Yeah.
If you're not from a particular neighborhood there. When I was growing up, you wouldn't get a fair one that way. You could ask for a fair one, but you ain't going to get it. It might last 5 minutes, the fair part.
And the stuff that I see with the online xenophobia right now, that to me is clearly something that they got from white folks.
Yeah.
It, with there's so much of it. Like to me, it's like, 'cause starting back in like my 20s, I started like kind of categorizing certain kinds of arguments that I would come up against when it came to white racists online and like self-hating black people. And I would just craft like a customized response so that I didn't have to really waste brain power anymore, because I was just coming against the same stuff over and over again from different people. And when I hear the stuff that the online xenophobia folks are saying, I'm like, it's right out of that playbook of racism, basically. That it started around the same time as you had the most like vocally anti-immigrant
Trumpian
president in modern.
It mirrors it mirrors and uses the exact same talking points as Trump.
Yeah,
it's like
his focus was to call like predominantly black countries out a little bit more than the other ones, shithole countries and whatnot.
Like that's just so bad. I mean, that was not helpful at all.
Yeah,
like for American U.S. policy, that was like, this moron is out to just mess up everything.
The stuff that I see, like if someone from outside the country who lives here does something bad, if an immigrant does something bad, focus the conversation on them being an immigrant. If it's someone that's homegrown, either don't talk about it at all, or you can talk about it but don't stress where they're from.
It's very European. That's what goes on in Europe, man. Straight up.
That's straight out of white people's playbook. Growing up here, I saw all the time on TV how if it's a black person that did something wrong, illegal or whatever, they would always try to focus on the race and try to bring up black culture as they got to have a round table discussion on black culture and so on and so forth. But if a white person committed a crime, it's just a white person that committed a crime. No big deal. There's no.
I'm so glad you said that, bro.
You know what I mean?
These guys don't understand how much they mirror European society right now. And I'm not even talking about U.S. society. I'm talking about Europe.
Yeah.
Like they are in Europe. It's really like that. Your nationality and the region of the world you come from is going to be mentioned when you commit that crime. But how we know you're not a European, pretty much, is because they don't mention your background when you committed that crime. That's how we know, oh, this is a homegrown one, because they don't even mention your background. As soon as your background is different, it's if you're African descent, if you're African background, that's what's going to be mentioned. If you're Arab, of course, that's going to be mentioned, because Arabs are the bigger population than Africans, even in Europe. You see, Black Africans are outnumbered by Arabs in Europe, you see, or Middle Eastern people, which could be Turkish. It could be, even though Turks are Europeans, it could be Turkish. It could be, it could be Moroccan, right? It's a widespread, but this Arab Middle Eastern groupings, Muslim, right? Primarily Muslim, they outnumber Black sub-Saharan Africans, you see, and by far, right? So, especially in places like Denmark, way outnumber, right? So, but you will hear, like, if you're Nigerian or African or black, you will hear this, from another country, and it's sad because in the U.S., a lot of our black brothers and sisters down with the FBA movement, they don't recognize how much what they're doing parrots European society, but they will
They don't
talking
care
about
to.
Europeans. They will be acting like they have a problem with Europeans, but they parrot Europeans.
Yeah, they don't care to, like, the thing about that kind of mentality is I almost want to say what that tall dude from the Wire said, like, when you in it, you in it.
Yeah,
But they, when you're like fanatical about stuff, nothing has to make sense. It just has to make you feel the way that you want to feel.
right.
Like, I was just thinking to myself yesterday that, they just recently got rid of affirmative action because they said that it was robbing, like, whites and Asians, people, non-black people, basically. It was robbing them of opportunities. So they got rid
Mhm.
of affirmative action. And then they turned around and instituted a curriculum in Florida where they want to start teaching that black folks basically got opportunities from slavery. And I'm
No,
like, it just doesn't have to make any sense, does it?
yeah, I think I saw that one. That was so ridiculous, actually. It's like, and they parrot that. Yeah, yeah, slavery.
Doesn't have
You
to
saw
make
the
no
Shaka.
sense.
Shaka pointed out the Pan African dude online, so quote unquote Pan African dude online, that also he mirrored that. He made the same statement. Slavery, didn't we get skills through slavery? Like, we got skills through slavery, man. We should be happy, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Like, we wouldn't get skills anyway. Like, we didn't have skills anyway. Like, it had to be slavery. Slavery gave us the skills because we wouldn't be working without slavery, right? You
well,
know.
and if you read the curriculum, that part in there, it says something about how you have to focus on explaining to folks that people gained skills while they
Mhm.
were enslaved that helped to benefit them later in
Mhm.
life. And really, the problem is benefit,
Mhm.
because for you to try to frame something as a benefit, that has to do, because now you're talking about like a gain or a privilege or something like that. You
Mhm.
you what's your metric of measurement to make an assessment that something is a benefit?
Mhm.
When you, like, okay, white feminists argue that black men getting the right to vote in 1868 before women did is an example of male privilege.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, okay, so you're saying that you would have wanted the status of black men back in 1868, like that would have been better for white women?
Yeah, you
Because,
wouldn't have no, yeah, and I hear you. And I don't
yeah,
it could sound like some make that argument, and then to others it could sound like that's the argument that they're making. There's like some different groups there of women. It depends on how they take
I'm, a,
that
I'm
idea, right?
I'm gonna get to that too,
Uh-huh.
but I'm just like, black men at the time are living under black codes. Um,
Hmm.
the convict leasing program started up right after slavery.
They mean that statement on the most micro level, like micro, which almost means no privilege in a sense.
Taking away all context
You
from the
had
situation.
you had privilege over one person. Then you had one distinct privilege, Femi, and that is if your family wasn't broken up enough to where you had a spouse. Yeah, maybe the difference between you and that black woman's right. Maybe you would have a little bit more privilege. One could argue in the law,
Oh,
but
even
outside of
even
that one most micro thing, the most minute of the micros, it's almost like who would want either one of those situations? Who would want to be the black woman or black man? Who would
Even
trade places?
even in relationship to black women, and it wasn't black women making the argument; it was white feminists making the argument.
Right.
But still, when you look at everything that black men were having to live through, the Jim Crow later on and all that, not to mention 1868, they got the right to vote. And then for the next 100 years, every time they actually tried to exercise that right to vote, they were getting murdered. 1920 is when women got the right to vote. Right after that, in 1920, when black women tried to exercise their right to vote along with black men in Ocoee, Florida, white people massacred all the black people in the town.
Exactly.
So welcome to privilege.
Yeah.
Were white women getting you know what I'm saying? Like you gotta. It's like if I come and I rob you of everything that you own. I take your home and everything, and then I take all of your money that you saved up for your whole life or whatever. I take everything from you. But while I'm busy robbing you, you know, I gave you a couple of bucks to go get yourself some water because you complained about being thirsty because it was taking me so long to rob you. Is that a benefit?
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
the
like,
fact is,
like what Malcolm X say.
the fact is you did get some money to get some water, though. You know, but that's the thing is that they're acting like all that other stuff didn't happen. And
it's like what Polite does to people every day with his scamming. You know, I robbed you out of all of this, but hey, let me give you a little bit back. Here's your refund. You know, oh yeah, you got this one. Yeah, here you go. Now, I you know, it's like that's where they're getting this shit from, man. Robbing people, man. It's crazy. It's crazy.
What's your metric of measurement to determine? As a matter of fact, the another thing that they're really not focusing that much at all on with that curriculum is there's a part in there where it says that they're going to be teaching about those massacres. You can call them pogroms. That's what they call them for Jewish people, where they just go and exterminate all the black people out of a town, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Ocoee, and so on and so forth. Slocum massacre. They're going to start teaching about those, and they say that they want to teach about how black people were also perpetrators of acts of violence during those massacres.
I mean, yeah, but
now,
you know, that's Go ahead. Continue.
You got some people that are trying to say, you know, well, they're probably talking about, you know, the black people defending themselves, but I'm like, wait a minute. Again, the curriculum's online for everybody to read, and you can go and see that they're also teaching about the Jewish Holocaust. Nowhere in there does it say that they got to focus on teaching that Jews learned any skills that were beneficial to them out of the Holocaust. And nowhere are they saying that Jewish people in the middle of those pogroms where the Nazis were just exterminating them, that the Jewish people were perpetrators of acts of violence.
Is this the curriculum in Florida you're talking about?
Yes.
That's the one proposed to replace the CRT, critical. Okay, I got you.
That's the new curriculum. Period. So from what it sounds like to me is that, you know, when you look back at the history of those massacres, it was always white people blaming black people, saying that it was something that a black person did that caused them to go exterminate everybody in the damn town. That's what it sounds like they're trying to revive to me.
Yeah, they want to cite Birth of a Nation as a historical fact. Yeah, here goes this film. See, the black man, he tried to rape this lady, and you know that's why the Klan got invented.
And yeah, I don't see the news like focusing on that part really any, and that's what's disturbing to me because I'm like, it's got to be for a reason. It's got to be for a reason because we already see that you know this is what they do with individuals that they murder. Whenever you're talking about a police murder of a black person or one of those vigilante killings like with Ahmaud Arbery and whatnot, they always try to find a way to blame the black person. Yeah. So it seems like that's not enough for them anymore.
You know, it will be I'm certain that there's definitely people that state-wise, as far as the states are concerned, they want to use that in specific states to justify whatever acts they're about to commit. Obviously, right? That they need some sort of justification to do
That's what it's
whatever they
saying.
want to. But on the national level, that type of policy would be a complete failure because everyone in the world is watching the U.S. about these issues, issues of racism, and I think that's where Black Americans have to be focused on making sure that they uh, expose these activities, right, that are happening politically from state to state, like what's going on in Florida, so that it doesn't just go get buried. Like you said, the news media may not be covering it yet in detail, you know.
It,
Yeah, because it's obnoxious and it's just goes against uh, where what human rights activists have been calling for in the first place globally, not just in inside of the U.S., but in terms of the reality that the transatlantic slave trade was a crime against humanity according to the UN. So those kind of things are supposed to be eliminated. Any type of teaching that goes against like what you're saying is they want to supplant CRT with this new initiative. All those things teaching that Black people were the cause of their own destruction or somehow to blame or anything, that's supposed to be completely eliminated, period, from anything. There should be no national funding. But see, they circumvent it through the state. The state must be funding it because the federal government can't be funding that,
um,
right?
and
Federal government, but maybe they do because federal government, every state gets federal funding for education somehow. It's not
they
purely
what
state, right?
they to
They need to withhold that funding if
exactly
something like
exactly that's exactly what I was about to say. But they're not.
that. Okay.
You know what I mean? That's and that's you
Hey,
know
can you put that in the link in the back chat so I could post something about that so I could post that for people? If you have a link to that,
the curriculum.
yeah, that they're proposing. Yeah,
I gotta look it
yeah,
up.
yeah. I could put it in the chat so people can get a link to it and I could take a look at it also, man. That's quite disturbing, brother. Yeah, that is very disturbing. Yo, this was a nice chat, Femi. And you just gave me a really good idea, man. I have to interview more of my people that come to the channel, people that we know, man, because that was just right there. That was an hour long chat, but there was a lot of information that came out of that, and also the fact that represent a diasporian Jamaican, that and live in the U.S. It's important right now, particularly because of this election, for people to get some access to qualitative information about that experience, so we don't fuck around and go vote Trump's ass back in. Because I can't be doing that. I'm not for Trump, and it's. I mean, why should I even have to say that? He's crazy. He's a moron. He's destructive on all different levels, internationally, nationally. For the U.S., he's a problem. But I mean, there's a lot of African Americans right now that they either don't know that they're supporting Trump type policies, Trump policies that are being funded by Trump indirectly or directly, or policies. Some of them are even funded by Russia, man. They don't know. There's no guarantee that none of it isn't, you know, Russian money pumping through some of these political movements going on, brother. And I'm not saying trying to sound like conspiratorial. There's evidence of that in the criminal justice system. You know,
Mhm.
organizations spreading disinformation among the Black community. You know, yeah. So let me see here. That is led. Some of this stuff sounds like it's like innocent. Like, oh yeah, we're just talking about keeping Jamaicans out there. Yeah, that's not a big problem. No, man, they trying to create mayhem in the country to create division as much as possible. So when something bad happens, people can't rally together anymore because they already done called each other, already divided each other. That can't happen, man. It's like To me, it seems like a push, like the foreplay to the next event, And the foreplay is xenophobia. Let's divide everybody where people could get along with some kind of symmetry. Now let's just try to divide them among ethnic lines as much as possible, and then the real strike will come.
And who knows what they have planned when it comes to media, because even with the individual cases of Black folks being murdered by cops or by vigilantes, it's been largely social media that's been blowing that type of stuff up, because the mainstream media, refused to.
Yeah.
Like that's what, when it came to Trayvon, it was social media that blew that up. Mainstream media really didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, media they always want to follow what they don't want to spark anything. They want to follow things, to play the safe ground. But right now, it's too much of a historic moment in the country for media to act that way. They need to really be about the due diligence and put things out there so the public is aware. It can have a real conversation about it. But on that note, Femi, thank you, my brother. It's excellent getting to know you a little bit, man. I don't often get a chance to even ask you any questions, man, because you know how those typically the panels are just rolling free, and it never really stops to really where we get to know each other. So I appreciate you spending the time with me, brother, and we can carry on the conversation. Yeah, and I hope to have more conversations. People hop up, and then we can kind of do one-on-ones, because it's beneficial to us all, my brother. Definitely. So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. You too, man.
Yeah. On that note, I'm going to chime out. Oh, by the way, Femi, is there something you wanted to ask me? Because I've been sitting here asking you all the questions for an hour now. Anything. I'll give you one question, man. And then next time you can
put me on the spot.
You can interview me, man, next time if you want.
All right.
All right. There we go, brother. All right. I appreciate you. Everybody else, have a good day. Thanks to Femi coming up again, and everybody else for listening. And we catch you guys next time. All right. I'm going to throw some go-go music on to celebrate it. And see if you can hear. Tell me what comes to your mind. You can type it in the chat, Femi, what comes to your mind. Let's see here. I don't even know if Jamaica got something like this, man. Jamaica, this might be too much for Jamaica. Let's see. Peace, y'all.
Don't get that big bad black hole. Each and every Friday night, see? Good to see you, Jack. The RE show, nigga. Yeah. Solar time song. Way back. Birthday tonight, baby. Huh? Got everything with you.